Welcome to another edition of the Sumner County Sports Show. I am your host, Blaine Keller, sports editor of the Hendersonville Standard, Gallatin News, and Portland Sun. Excited to bring you another edition of the SCSS this summer. First great episode last week, and we had a great spring roundup the week before. So we're plugging along, and it's almost hard to believe that we're halfway through June already. Want to extend a happy early Father's Day to all of those who celebrate. I know I've got some great plans for this weekend to celebrate the holiday, but if you don't, there's one thing I know you can do. There's baseball happening all around the country at this time of year, and we continue our series talking with Full Count Rhythm head coach Josh Carman and discussing the Ohio Valley League as a whole. This week, we've got Coach Carman by video. Coach Carman, how are you?
Good, Blaine. Good morning. How are you?
Excited to have you on, and great as always to talk with you, Coach. And it's an exciting time for the Rhythm for sure. Winning streak has reached 7 after an undefeated week last week, a 4-3 win on Tuesday, and I believe an 8-6 win last night. Is there anything just to start off here that surprised you about that?
Well, no. We look at our roster. We're very talented up and down the roster, and not to sound arrogant, but we've kind of come accustomed to winning, and then that's why a lot of college coaches like to send their guys here so they learn how to compete, and they learn what it takes to be a winner. And so, really, the main thing that's carrying us right now is our pitching staff. Pitching staff's really throwing the ball well right now, and it's allowing our bats to have a little time to come along. We talked about that last week. It's a little bit of an adjustment period with the bats, with wood bats in the summer. So our pitching staff's really, I guess, a little surprised me a little bit. We're pitching really low ERA wise, so it's carrying us.
Before we dive into that pitching staff and those relievers as well, maybe talk a little bit more about what kind of challenges a wood bat league presents to the typical college player that is used to not playing with those throughout a college season.
Well, like you said, they're just not used to swinging wood. They swing it in the cage or off a tee, and during batting practice a little bit. But for the majority of their careers thus far, they've swung a metal bat, and there's a lot more forgiveness in a metal bat than there is with wood. You got to hit it on the barrel, and so barrel awareness becomes a big deal that they focus on in the summer, and you don't get very many of those cheap hits off the end or off the hands. You really got to sting it on the barrel, and so it's a little bit of an adjustment there for these guys. It generally takes about 2 weeks, and we're right around that 2-week mark right now, with this season. And last night, we strung together, I think, 13 or 14 hits. It's the most we've had thus far this summer. And so they're starting to figure it out, and like I said last week, the hard part is being patient with that, for me, for the players as well. But I think they're doing a great job of being patient and continuing to work. They're getting a lot of swings every day inside the cages throughout the day, and then we take batting practice on the field every day. Try to speed up that process a little bit.
They're trying to catch up to the pitchers a little bit, who have, as you mentioned, had nothing but success this season. Before last night's game, you allowed an average of less than 2 runs a game through that winning streak. When you look at your starting pitchers and maybe your relievers as well, which one do you think you've been more impressed with so far?
Well, both. Our starting pitching's been excellent, and they're really on pitch count. So I guess we know those guys are good. The bullpen probably mostly. They're the guys that's having to come out every 2 or 3 nights and piece together the back end of a game. The starters have virtually been on pitch counts thus far through the summer. So, they're going, 2 times through the lineup, 3, 4, 5 innings most, and then the relievers come in, and the relief pitching, because you're piecing together the back end of the game with 2 or 3 arms a night. So those guys got to be on every night. just about. So I think it's a little more impressive to watch what our bullpen's doing on the back end of the games.
Is there anything you guys do as a staff to prepare them for those moments? I'm sure that happens during the course of a college season where they'll be called upon whenever a starter can't go very deep in a game. But what as a staff have you kind of told this bullpen, especially early on in the season when you have those pitch counts and maybe a little bit of a restriction on your starters?
Well, the main thing is communication. We communicate with these guys. They know when they're up and when they're down. We preach all summer. Having a routine, committing to that routine, getting your work in, getting your recovery in. During BP every day, they go out. They've got things to do every day to continue to work on their craft and stay ready. And it's difficult. Sometimes it doesn't go as planned in baseball. You'd like to think that your plan for 6 days is going to line up perfectly, but it's just not the nature of this game. It doesn't always work out. So communication's key. So they know, going into a week, what nights they're going to be up, what nights they're going to be down, and really what nights they're going to be a fireman, where they got to come in a sticky situation and kind of hold it together so we can get to the next guy. So communication's a big key, and then the guys do a really, really good job throughout the week in their recovery, staying ready with their programs, their throwing programs that they're on, their weight training. There's a lot of variables that go into staying ready, and the guys are really doing a good job of that.
And of course, staying ready and maybe that communication part of it, that's all before they toe the rubber, they get on the mound there. But once they're on the mound, is it just the talent that has elevated these guys to play so well early on? What's been so special or different about that bullpen or even the starters that makes them stand out in that regard?
Well, I think you obviously they can flip a switch and turn that competitive edge on that they just don't want to get beat, right? At some point, yeah, there's a lot of talent, but there's also a willingness to compete um, and just be a competitor. You flip a switch inside of you and you bear down and become razor focused on what you got to do and what's in front of you. Um, I mean, we have a saying. It's kind of silly and funny. We tell our bullpens there's two things. We call them the sick 'em boys. So it's like sicking a dog on them. So when we go to our bullpen, we tell them sick 'em, and then our pitching staff has kind of adopted a saying: "Don't get got, go get." So when you get in the game, go get them. Don't let them get you. Go get them. So they really battle when they get on the mound. It's fun to watch them.
Don't get got, go
Go
get.
get it. That's right. Yeah.
Well, one guy that went out and got, I guess, last Thursday, we talked about it right before his OVL debut, Nick Griffin,
Yeah.
3 hitless innings. As you mentioned, another one of those guys that was maybe on a pitch restriction. But what did you see from his first appearance with you all last week?
Well, it's really good. Nick's coming off of an injury a year ago, and that was the first night that he's thrown competitive in a game, and I think, geez, 11 months, I believe. So he was nervous, admittedly, and rightfully so. He was nervous, but did a good job of holding down those emotions and trying to stay pretty level with his emotions. And I thought he did really well. He's on about a 50, 55 pitch count last week. He's on the bump again tonight. We're going to bump him up 5 or 10 this week. So I thought he did a great job. He's still working on some things. And for his first time out in 10 and 11 months, I thought he did a phenomenal job. He's obviously got some talent. He wouldn't be at Arkansas if he didn't. But he's still trying to figure some things out, find some release points, and stay connected and in his deliveries and fluid. So excited to see him go back out again tonight. He's got good stuff. So we'll see what he can do if he can repeat it again tonight.
And it kind of goes back to what you were talking about with the bullpen, the Sick'em boys.
Yeah.
Nick had 3 hitless innings. He struck out 5, but you needed the bullpen to outlast Du Bois County throughout the rest of that game.
Yeah, we did, and I think the difference in our team and many of the others in this league is our bullpen. We've seen it the last 2 years. Pitching's premium, and so when we build a roster, we build it around our pitching staff, and you got to have arms down there, and they kind of feed off each other. They're not all the same caliber, the same speed, with the same pitch mixes, uh, but they're all down there helping each other and working together and figuring out what works for them and not. And really, when one has some success, the others feed off of it, and it just kind of transfers down the line. So the difference I believe is our bullpen in this league. It's been really good the last 2 years, and so far this year, it's continuing to be really good.
Well, there's a lot of SEC flash, like we mentioned last week, out of the starting rotation. But when you're talking about the bullpen, is there a specific guy that's impressed you most through these first couple of weeks?
Well, I think Logan Harrell. Uh, he's come in. He's come in 4 games already in relief. Really, the back end, like the closer role. Um, this kid it just graduated high school a month ago from Good Pasture, and he's on his way to Trevecca, um, probably as a two-way guy. But I think he's impressed me the most, being being that he's so young. He's still just 17 years old, and he's out here pitching and playing against guys that have been in college 2, 3, 4 years. 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds. He came in the game last night. He was sitting 89 to 93, and hasn't given up a run in 4 appearances thus far. And we've put him in some sticky situations with some runners on base and in tight ball games. And so I think his maturity level has impressed me, and then obviously his ability. He's got good stuff. He's a velo guy in the low 90s. Um, just not being rattled by the situation and not being rattled that guys have been in college. I'm not sure. I hadn't figured out quite what it is yet. Does he even recognize that he's still just 17? He's pitching against college, or is he just out there just playing and throwing?
Yeah, that's the only guy out of your pitching staff that's an incoming freshman, only one of two on the whole team when you look at this roster. Uh, I would assume, especially with guys making that immediate jump from high school to college level players in the span of a month, that's got to be a big challenge in of itself. But it almost sounds like he hasn't faced that yet.
Well, he hasn't, and it is. It's an adjustment. You see it through the college game every year. Freshmen come in and usually they were one of the better players on their team in high school, and they're used to being the dude, and then they show up on a college campus in the fall camp, and all of a sudden everybody's just as good or better, and especially with pitchers. They recognize mostly that they can't throw over the middle of the plate belt high. It just doesn't work in college, and typically you're not going to blow anybody away. There's very few that walk in as a freshman and just blow people's doors off. So he's done a great job thus far, and really hasn't struggled. It's going to come. We'll continue to put him in situations throughout the summer where he's going to have success, and then we'll put him in situations where he's going to have to really focus, and it's going to be a tough situation for him, and let him see some adversity. It will only help him as he goes into Trevecca next year, and he'll be able to go in there with the confidence that he's done this before, and so hopefully it'll make it better.
Wanted to go back to Nick's start a little bit because it was one of two really interesting games for you guys last week.
Yeah.
Two one-run games where you needed a score in the eighth or the ninth. Thursday was a go-ahead error that Cooper Holbrook scored on, and
Yeah.
Saturday, another one-run game was a walk-off walk from Drew Robertson with the bases loaded. Just how weird were those two games, maybe not needing to necessarily swing the bat to win it?
Well, I told the guys last night after our game, somehow we're not swinging it well right now. It's getting better, and it's coming. But somehow we keep finding ways to win, and that's a testament to just their willingness to compete and find ways to win. Sometimes in baseball you just got to figure it out, and the ball bounces your way. Sometimes you got to force some things and make things happen. Put some pressure on the defense. The night that Cooper scores on an error, Coop gets on base and steals a base, and then tries to move up on a pass ball, and they end up throwing the ball away and allowing us to score to go ahead. That's Cooper's instincts and athleticism, just being on the field, making plays, making things happen, putting pressure on defense. And you got to do those things when you're not swinging the bat. Um, while we're not swinging it well, we're trying to tell our hitters, be patient, find good pitches to hit. Right now a walk's just as good as a hit. So our ability just to find ways to win is impressive. Uh, um, if the bats wake up, this team's probably going to be unstoppable because our pitching staff is pitching at a 2 right now. So if we can get all three components going, we could be very dangerous.
Do those wins, those two in particular, match the level of excitement as maybe a walk-off home run or a walk-off extra base hit when you're coaching from the dugout?
Yeah, I mean, a win's a win, and you take them any way you can get them. It's a lot more, um, it's a lot more exciting to see a guy slug one over the fence for a win. But I promise you, the excitement coming out of our dugout the night that they threw the ball into left field and Coop scores and Drew draws a walk to walk it off. I promise you, the guys are just as excited about those wins as they are about the ones that get slugged over the fence. So yeah, it's always exciting to win. It's never fun to lose those games on the other side. We've been on the other side as well. So it's not fun to lose them when they slug it over the fence, and it's not fun to lose them when they walk you to win it. So it's exciting and depressing both ways. But that night Drew was at the plate. I mean, I think he had a 9-pitch at bat to draw the walk. So it was an intense moment, and props to Drew for not swinging at a bad pitch and drawing the walk.
We've got one more for you, Coach Carmen, then we'll let you out of here. You've got a couple of more road games this week after getting a ton of time at home in these first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned it when we talked in last week's show, but what ways does the coaching staff or the players make those bus rides to Kentucky or to other parts of Tennessee interesting?
Well, on the way up, it's pretty low key on the bus. Guys are resting, listening to music, reading, doing homework if they're in summer classes or what have you. But on the ride home, it gets a little wild in a good way. They got a few games they play while they're on the bus. Some of the coaches will get in the back and play with them. There's plenty of bus snacks on the bus. So there's a lot of food. We've got obviously the direct TV on the bus that the guys can watch. So they find ways to entertain themselves on the bus. And we spoke last week that bus trips are big for us, especially early in the season. It helps us bond and get to know each other a little better. And it's always exciting when the coaching staff jumps in the back seats and plays the games with them. But we got a couple this week. The next 3 games is kind of a playoff test for us. Got Henderson back to back. They're a really good franchise and a really good team. And then we head to Du Bois County on Saturday. So good 3-game stretch for us. It'll kind of give us a glimpse of what the playoffs are going to look like and let us see what we're made of.
The Du Bois County game is always one to look out for, especially with how last week went. Coach Carmen, let's hope to see the winning streak continue as these days roll on. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Blaine. Thanks for having me on.
That was Josh Carmen, Full Count Rhythm head coach and general manager. When we come back, we're going to give you our Sumner County storylines. We'll give you a couple of all-county and all-mid-state teams. A lot of recognition coming from Sumner County. Stay tuned.
There is nothing better than drinking an ice-cold beverage while taking in a Nashville Sounds baseball game. Hi, I'm Stephanie Miller with Mornings on Main Street. The Nashville Sounds and Main Street Media Television have teamed up to promote Sunday Family Fun Day here at First Horizon Park each Sunday home game. Just go to your favorite Main Street Media website and click on Sounds Main Street Media Day banner to register to win free tickets. And then we'll see you here at the ballpark.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd, the goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Experience Predators hockey all season long. Visit NashvillePredators.com/season tickets and join the Loyal Legion today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets, and we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
Time for the Rackley Roofing 200, and it is going to be June 23rd out at the Nashville Super Speedway. And we partnered up, all of us here at Main Street Media TV, and we have joined with Rackley Roofing to send you. Yep, what you got to do to win, all you got to do is go to your favorite Main Street Media website, look for the Enter to Win banner, click there, and you're in. Like Flynn. Isn't that cool? Main Street Media TV and Rackley Roofing sending you to the race.
Tired of hanging lights every year? We get it. That's why Southern Nights is here to help. We install programmable lighting on your home or business so you can enjoy beautiful, customizable lighting all year round. No more ladders, tangled lights, or cold nights outside. We do the work, you do the celebrating. Call Southern Nights today and take the hassle out of holiday lighting forever. For a free quote, give us a call at 931-241-3074 or visit our Facebook page at Southern Nights.
Welcome back to the Sumner County Sports Show, brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, where fans don't let fans drive drunk. Blaine Keller here with a great second interview with Josh Carman, head coach and general manager of the Full Count Rhythm. Always fun talking with him. And now we give you our Sumner County storylines. First off, it is about the Full Count Rhythm, giving you a glimpse into our Full Count recap this week. Make sure to check that out in the Hendersonville Standard and Gallatin newspapers. As I mentioned with Coach Carman, 7 straight wins for the Rhythm right now. When we wrote our recap, they were at 5. Lots of great pitching. The offense, although it hasn't had a lot of power, has done a very good job at getting on base and creating contact. I believe they had a couple of games last week where they'd pick up 6, 7, 8 hits, and only one of those being for a double or an extra base hit. That kind of goes back to us talking about hitting with metal bats, hitting with composite bats, as opposed to the wood bats, a little harder to drive it out to right field or center field over the wall. But there's still a lot of impressive talent on this team. They're out to now, I believe, 7-3 or 8-3 on the season. Just an impressive bunch so far. And one guy that we didn't get to mention in our interview with Coach Carman is Auburn pitcher Elliott Bray. Hat tip to him. He's started 2 games so far for the Rhythm, 7 2/3 innings pitched, has yet to allow a run. So going to be a really interesting stretch of the season to watch how those SEC guys kind of fit into the mold of this team and expand their role a little bit as the pitch count goes deeper. Now, as I mentioned, lots of all mid-state teams, one all-county team that we're working on right now. Be sure to stay tuned to Twitter and Facebook, to social media, and our website at thehendersonvillestandard.com to see our all-Sumner County soccer team, which we'll release shortly. But last week, I believe I touched on this a little bit. Our all mid-state baseball team presented by Main Street Preps released. Not the best season in Sumner County standards. Unfortunately, no team made it to the state tournament, but there's still 3 athletes that made our all mid-state team. Beach's Cooper Johnson was a first-team pitcher with an ERA of .85 and 74 strikeouts. Derek Chambliss at second base, or the infield spot, he hit .407 and stole 31 bases for Beach. He's an all mid-state second-team winner. And Blake Morris Hendersonville pitcher with a 1.07 ERA, 85 strikeouts. That's a Belmont commitment. He was a second team nominee as well. All Mid-State softball team presented by Main Street Preps. There were 4 from Sumner County named to the All Mid-State team after 2 teams made it to the sectional. Sarah Kaiser was named the first team catcher after batting .570 with 50 RBIs. Hendersonville's Carly Ward struck out once all season. That was one of the fun stories that I got to write about the UT Martin commitment. She scored 48 runs and was also a first-team outfielder for All Mid-State. Beach's Caitlin Graham batted .518 and knocked in 56 RBIs. That's a Sumner County best. She was a second-team honoree. Gallatin's Hannah Gaines hit 9 home runs and 44 RBIs while being an Alabama A&M commitment for pitcher. She's a third-team selection. So that's all 4 nominees from the All Mid-State softball team that represents Sumner County. And then, of course, we have our All Mid-State soccer team. 5 Sumner County products after 2 teams made it to the state tournament. 1 team made it to the state championship, that being Station Camp. The other falling 1 game shy of that championship game, being Merrill High. Station Camp's Gavin Bruce, a defender with 15 goals and 6 assists after a formation change from Jeremy Cook and the Bison. He was a first-team member. Second-team member Jack Kemp finished with 7 goals and 4 assists for Station Camp. District 9 AAA defensive MVP Colin Miller out of Hendersonville was a third-team honoree. Merrill Hyde's Braden Evans and Brody Hitchcock, also third-team members. Evans finished with 14 goals and 9 assists. Hitchcock, after scoring 20 goals his freshman season, had 19 goals this year and 8 assists. We'll give you a brief glimpse into our all Sumner County team since we've got a couple of minutes left here on the Sumner County Sports Show. This team should release either tonight or tomorrow. It was a lot of fun writing it. It's a long one. It's a lengthy all-county team, so be sure to tune into that. But we'll give you our all Sumner County honorees, the award winners. Midfielder of the year went to Jack Kemp. Matthias Cobb out of Beach won Offensive Player of the Year after 12 goals and 13 assists for the Buccaneers. Colin Miller, as we mentioned, in All Mid-State selection, he was Defensive Player of the Year, of course, winning Defensive MVP in District 9 AAA, puts you in a good spot to win that. Aldo Fonseca, after a really wonderful season with 9 shutouts and a couple of crucial goals in the state tournament, he was named Goalkeeper of the Year. Coach of the Year was the hardest decision to make. It was a split. Coaches tied between Daniel Brooks of Merrill Hyde and Mark Lamberth of White House. Merrill Hyde, of course, having a great end to its season and the last year for Daniel Brooks as he enters into fatherhood, deciding to spend more time with his family and step away from coaching. Of course, leading the Hawks back to the state semifinals. White House, though, had a really interesting start to the year. They picked up their 300th win as a program and had back-to-back wins over Hendersonville, Beach, and Station Camp. Of course, one of those being the Class AAA runner-up. So really impressive year from Lamberth and Brooks, respectively. Station Camp was named your team of the year. That was almost unanimously. I believe Westmoreland got a vote in there. They had a 12-win season. It was a great year for Sumner County soccer. I wrote this in our All Sumner County team. I believe that this was the most successful sport. Track and field gave it a run for its money, but it's the 7th straight year that a Sumner County team has reached the state tournament. Just a wonderful run by those clubs, by the programs and the coaches that run it all together, and of course the players. That kind of wraps us up here on the Sumner County Sports Show, brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Thank you so much for joining us, and when we come back next week, stay tuned for more full count rhythm news. We'll talk to you then.